welcome back to my channel. My name's Shana and I speak about reading, writing and some other things as well. Today I wanted to give you all of the 5-star or near to 5-star reads that I've read this year. I have been out on a journey to find the best books, and I feel like this year I got a little bit closer, but next year my big goal is to really truly hone in on what my reading, sorry, my dog's in the background drinking if you can hear it, what my reading taste is, and to find out what books I actually like so I can find some 5-star reads, and that's why you're on this journey with me. So without further ado, these are the books that were near to 5 stars, probably like 4.5, even 4.75, and I wanted to talk to you about them today. So the first one is Her Majesty's Royal Coven. I'll put up a picture of that over here. It's by Juno Dawson. I have the second book in the series because I enjoyed the first one so much, but I read it on Kindle, so that my sister-in-law got me this one for my graduation. So why did I like this book? It's about witches. I love witches anyway. I love the idea of witches. I think it's fun growing up with Harry Potter, but also in general I kind of like the witchy season of like October and November and everything, so maybe that works with that. But what was different about Her Majesty's Royal Coven is that it took the stereotypes and the basic things about witches and then kind of played with it. Like, it somehow managed to uphold the stereotypes and bring the history and bring the realness that we expect from witches, but then also bring such freshness and like a modern feel to it. It's about a coven of witches. You see them from when they're young and then it quickly zooms out to when they're older. I think they're in their 30s or 40s. And they've grown apart a little bit. They have different they're at different stages in their life. Some of them have children, some of them don't, some of them in relationships, some of them not, and they have also kind of broke apart due to, let's just say, political differences or, you know, moral differences. I won't give any spoilers, so that's kind of really interesting. And then one of the characters in it, Neve, is one of my favourite characters that I've read. I don't read a lot of characters that I'm like, oh, I love them, whereas I loved her. I thought she was really great, really well done. She was funny, she was smart, she was caring. She had to make difficult decisions, but she did the right things for her people, all of her people, and the real true like moral difficulties that she went through were really inspiring to watch, not to watch. See, I felt like I was watching it, to read, sorry. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and it wasn't, and I think I liked it because it wasn't a big epic story. It kind of set up as if it could be, so maybe this one's going to be more epic. I haven't read it yet, but it wasn't epic. It wasn't going too much. Instead, it was just about some women going through difficulties together, having a really difficult situation to do with being a witch and what it means to be a witch and whether you can be in a coven or not, about femininity and masculinity and all of these things. If you know the author, then those things will make sense to you. I won't give any more spoilers than that. But it was really, really interesting, real deep, emotional, contemporary, reflective story, and I think that's why I liked it alongside the fantasy elements. So that's really what I've been looking for. The next one is very different. It is Three Women by Lisa Taddeo. I don't know how to say it. The reason I liked this book is because, again, it was about femininity, it was about being a woman, about the difficulties of being a woman in adulthood. I guess I don't really usually read a lot of contemporary adult fiction, so this was a breath of fresh air. I read it really quickly, which I didn't expect, and it was really interesting to explore different women at different stages in their lives, but all dealing with the difficulties of what it means to be a woman and to have needs, to have wants and needs, sexual wants and needs, largely, and not have them met, or feel like there's something wrong with you for wanting those things, or that you're gaslighted as well, not believed when you speak up. So it's very like Me Too era for some parts of it. The multiple perspectives was really interesting to me because the story didn't ever say this is bad, this is good. It left you as the reader to decide whether you agreed with what the women did, whether you agreed with how the women felt, and the writing was just so beautiful that I like read the passages again because I was like, oh, that was really well written, or I like wrote it down on my phone. And I like lines that make you stop and go, oh, that was good. So I really had a lot of moments of that when reading this, and the fact that it's a bit more spicy was different for me, and I liked it as well. The next one on the list is Tomorrow, Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Everyone has spoken about this book. It's really popular this year. I've tabbed it. It's one of the first books that I tabbed, and I really enjoyed doing that. I love the ASMR feel of the tabs. These just show that I did enjoy the book, because I tabbed any lines that I liked, any moments that were really interesting, any piece of information that I didn't know. I really enjoyed this book because it followed a Jewish main character and a Korean main character, and I don't think I've read perspectives like for a modern American book that are from characters who are from different countries or different backgrounds. So that was really interesting, and like a Jewish character especially, apart from ones to do with the war, like, you know, the book thief or what's the other one, the tattooist of Auschwitz. I haven't read books about a Jewish person just being a person in everyday life, so that was really interesting. And because it's based on games, hopefully you know this already, but it's based on games, they're both game designers, that was so unique for me, so cool, so interesting. I'm interested in games, but I don't play them as much as I used to. I grew up playing Assassin's Creed, which I loved those games. Every time a new one came out, my mum would get it for me and I would play it until I finished. I enjoy story games, those kind of games. Me and my husband have just played Until Dawn over Halloween, which is really exciting. So I love decision making games as well, and like, you know, Heavy Rain. So seeing how games are made and how difficult it is to construct a game, like you don't think about these things unless you're in the industry or, you know, as somebody who's just interested in it in general. But it's really interesting to watch someone go through that process and the difficulties of being a creative person but not being able to create. What do you do when you're faced with a decision to make money or go with your gut? Those were really interesting to me as a writer who has gone through, you know, creative blocks and having to make creative decisions. So that was really interesting for me. And the fact that it's not a love story, but it's all about love, I think that's what it's branded as well. It's about friendship, it's about the families, like found family, what we would do for people even when they haven't potentially treated us in the best way, or they're going through things on themselves that make their lives really difficult, that makes them then a difficult friend to be with. How often do we keep showing up for them? How do we show up for them? How do we give them their space but also show that we care? Like it was really beautiful, really well done. There's lots of bits that were really interesting to me. I like Japan as a country. I grew up watching anime. I studied Japanese when I was in college, so I've done 2 years of it and hopefully go to Japan next year. And so the fact that they went to Japan, the fact that they are inspired by Japanese culture in the games that they play was also really interesting as well. The next one that I've got is October. I really enjoyed this book. I had to read it for university, but I chose not to. Sorry, I didn't have to read it for university. I could read it for university, so I bought it, but then I chose not to use it. I went for a different story. But then I still had it on my shelf, and because it was called October, I decided to read it obviously in October. It's a middle grade book, children's book, and it's won the Carnegie Medal, so it's very critically acclaimed. I did tab it as well, obviously not as much as the other one, but I have tabbed it because it was really, really well written. I flew through it so quickly. I didn't expect to fly through it because it was just an emotional story about a girl who lives in the forest with her dad, and then all of a sudden her dad has an accident, and so she can't live with him anymore. She has to live with her mum, and she has to go to school, and she never had, like, it's like a Portal story almost, because she's grown up in the forest doing living off the land, survival kind of thing, and then now she's suddenly in the city surrounded by kids her own age that she's never been with before. It's like a whole new world to her, and the way that the author describes how she feels being immersed in this really loud world made me kind of anxious for the character, because I was like, oh my god, that must be awful. Like the sensory overload of noise when you're used to just the quiet of the forest, and people being all around you, they're demanding things from you that you don't understand. Like the social anxiety that I have myself, I could feel through this character. So that was really powerful, and how she's wrestling with, I've potentially caused this situation to happen. What do I do to get myself out of this situation? Have I made the right decisions? All of these things were really, really interesting for me to explore in this story, and like I say, so beautifully written, and like the typography was interesting too. I'm trying to find a little bit, but like it's the line spacing down the story, I don't know if you can see it. The line spacing, the way it breaks it up, it like immerses you into how she feels, and oh, there was a bit there. Yeah, to how she's breaking down the emotions. It's got like little pictures of owls as well. So it was just a really beautiful story. The cover itself was really beautiful, very October vibes, and that's why I color coded it with the cover as well. That was really, really amazing. I liked reading that, and I feel like it's a shame I didn't actually read it for university. The next books that I have, I read on Kindle, so I don't have physical copies of them. I'll put up a picture here. So the first one was You. So you might have watched the TV series on Netflix. It stars, I think, Penn Badgley, I don't know how you say his name, but he's really, really cool. And I loved the series, absolutely adored the series, and I got the book on Audible, and I just flew through it. I loved listening to it because it literally felt like I was watching the TV show but listening to it on audiobook, because his psyche is just so thrilling and exciting and terrifying and eerie and uncomfortable, and like being in the mind of somebody who is not even morally grey, they're just kind of like bad. He's obsessive, he's clearly had a difficult childhood that's led to him to think this way. Won't go into it in case you haven't watched it already, but reading someone who thinks in this way, somebody who is potentially villainous or, you know, in the wrong, is very, very interesting to me. That's why I did enjoy Notes on Execution. I didn't rate it as highly because I did get a bit bored in the middle, but Notes on Execution was really interesting because you're learning about somebody who's on death row, who's done bad things, and you kind of like, it's icky. But anyway, You was really good. I loved the language. I loved that the author didn't shy away from saying exactly how a character like Joe would feel, and how obsessive he could be, and how he would sexualize the characters that he was, the Beck, I think it is Beck that he was following, and how he would kind of convince himself that what he was doing was okay. That was really, really well done. And you felt on edge, and you were kind of like rooting for him, but also saying, no, this is bad, which is really hard to get. So the author did really well. I think it was Caroline Kepnes, something like that. She did really well with that. And listening to it on Audible, I think, was a good decision for me. I think I would have enjoyed it anyway, but listening to it, it literally felt like I was watching the TV show, which was really interesting. You kind of felt like, oh my God, what am I hearing? With like the language that was used, like the swearing that was used was like really powerful. Again, like the sexual imagery or him having sex was like really detailed. And so that was unnerving, but also as a writer I could really appreciate how great that is to capture that in writing really well, without it being cringy, without it being awkward, without it becoming across wrong. So that was really, really well done. So that was like definitely a 5-star audiobook for me. The next book is Crying in H Mart. This one's a very different one. I didn't actually know when I bought it that it was going to be a non-fiction book, that it was going to be a memoir, but listening to it on Audible was really, really good for me, because I was able to hear the emotion that the character was going through, the author was going through, and I got to learn about Korean culture a lot more. It was an exploration of grief, one's relationship to their mother, one's relationship to a parent, one's relationship to their culture as well. So she was a Korean American, so she's grown up in America, but then she's obviously got this connection to her Korean culture, and I can appreciate that as a mixed race woman, that balancing like different cultures within you is very difficult, and not neglecting one side of yourself, but also not ignoring the fact that you were brought up in America, your parents chose to bring you up in America, so you're not Korean, like standard like Korean over there, but you still have those elements, and that's really difficult. And like, what do you do when your parents don't agree with what you're doing because potential cultural differences from how they were brought up? That's very interesting to me as a writer and somebody who has married into an African family whose culture is very different to my own. So I won't go into the personal history of that, but that's really interesting to me, and I love the emotion of it. Like I say, it's about grief. I've been through grief myself. I lost my father when I was young, so learning about how somebody else feels navigating that, and the questions that you're left with when a parent is gone, is really, I was gonna say it's really good, but it's not really good. It's really emotional, potent, powerful, profound, and I think it was handled in a really well done manner. She shared parts of her life and her culture with us, so as a reader you learn about Korean culture, like I said, which is really interesting. So if you are somebody who's interested in other parts of the world and differences of cultures, then this would be a book that I would recommend to you. And the last one that I'll talk about I read on Kindle, which was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Sorry, the alliteration got my tongue then. I read this one expecting it to be a bit of fun, and guess what? It was a bit of fun. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't the best murder mystery ever. It wasn't like I didn't guess who it was, so that's good. But it wasn't like I was along the ride and like, oh my god, plot twist. It wasn't like that at all. But it was fun. It was an easy read. It was interesting enough. I liked going along the ride with the main character. I liked how she was thirsty for the answers, and she was driven and she was intelligent, and she kind of got lost in the cycle of it. And you see her making poor choices because she's just so completely enthralled and like intoxicated by the thrill of this. That was really interesting to me, and I think that I kind of saw her as like Hermione Granger, but like to the max. So she was really interesting to read. I read it back in like January or February, so I'm casting my mind back now, but it was fun. It's a good read. If you like murder mysteries but you don't want anything too serious, then this is a YA murder mystery, so I do recommend it. It's a bit of fun. Go into it with just an open mind and you will enjoy it. So those are the books that I would rate 4.5, maybe 4.75. Books that basically were so good that I had to rate them highly, but I don't think that they're quite 5 stars yet. I do want to take some time at some point to analyse why I like those books a bit more, so that I could see more books like those books, so I can find some more 5 stars, because I am on a journey to really find some books that I'm like, oh my god, this was amazing, I need to recommend it to everybody that I know. That's what I want to get to. So yeah, if you've had any books this year that are 5 stars, please let me know in the comments, because I would love some book recommendations or books like the ones that I've talked about today. And I'll speak to you again soon. Bye guys.